Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a book review on Arch-Conspirator by Veronica Roth. Arch-Conspirator is an imaginative retelling of Antigone by Veronica Roth. The world has fallen into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. For humanity to survive, women must have children, and genes are edited and stored to ensure the continuation of society. Antigone's mother and father are dead. Her militant uncle, Creon, rules. Antigone and her siblings are at the mercy of Creon. After an incident with her brothers goes horribly wrong, Antigone realizes it's time for a rebellion and to break away from her oppressive cage. Part of me really wanted to give this little short novella 4 stars for creativity alone. But yeah, I think I went down to 3 stars with my rating, and I'll kind of get into the specifics of why I decided to go to 3 stars rather than 4 stars, because I didn't want to sit and do the 4 stars just for creativity alone. You know, I wanted to kind of hash out some of the issues I had with it. I really enjoy the story of Antigone, which also ties into the story of Oedipus Rex, which I think a lot of us read probably in high school, I'm assuming. I love the story of Oedipus Rex. I love the story of Antigone. And what I also liked, that instead of Veronica Roth doing a traditional Greek mythology retelling, I like that she just kind of did her own unique spin and put the story of Antigone in a far future post-apocalyptic wasteland scenario, you know, while still having those similar threads of the story of Antigone and Oedipus Rex kind of in here. Because there's so many Greek mythology retellings at the moment. It's a very popular genre. It's always been a very popular genre, but in recent years it's just gotten ridiculously insane how many Greek mythology retellings are out there. And the thing is, what's also frustrating, there's so many Greek mythology retellings that are kind of just rehashing the same stories. I don't know how many times the fall of Troy has to be retold. You guys, it's a little ridiculous that every single author who dabbles in Greek mythology retellings, so far, every single one of them have done some sort of situation that retells the fall of Troy. And at this point, it's gotten really repetitive and mundane and monotonous and just nothing unique or original. No one has any originality, it seems. So whenever there's an author that does a part of Greek mythology that has not been done before, or maybe it's just been done rarely, I always get excited. And yeah, this book in particular, like I said, what really kind of grabbed my attention was the fact that this is a Greek mythology retelling of Antigone, but yeah, with a sci-fi slant and yet thrown into the far future. And that totally worked for me. I loved that incredible creativity alone. So despite the unique creative spin on this story, unfortunately, I think this book fell flat. I'm sad to say. And I think a big part of the issue with why this book fell flat is the fact that it's a novella. Why was this a novella? This book had such great, I think, world building that was established. And the thing is, I think there was so much more world building that could have been gone into deeper and better. And it's a shame, because this is like a whole book. You know, the whole plot going on in here and the characters, I think there was enough material in here that could have gone for like a couple hundred more pages, because I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about these particular characters, how Veronica Roth has adapted them, you know. I wanted to know more about these characters and their relationships and kind of the history that has taken place before this book. That's a big thing. I needed more of the history. A lot of the history is kind of gone into, but it's done so quickly and so rapidly that at times it can feel a little kind of overwhelming and a little confusing, because of the fact that this book is so short. Veronica Roth has to go through her world building like at super speed, and you got to try to keep up as best you can. And she kind of has her own unique terminology that she is using, you know, because like any good sci-fi book, an author is going to kind of create their own set of like lingo and words and stuff like that, and she kind of does the same thing in this, and she kind of throws all that in there, and you, the reader, are kind of a little lost and confused about, wait, what does that mean exactly? I need a little bit more. So this book, or novella, I guess, this novella had so much potential, you guys, and I think it's a shame that that potential was absolutely wasted, because the material of this is not fit for a novella. This straight up needed to be like a 300, 400 page book. Now, I don't know, maybe there's other people out there that thought the length of this was perfectly fine, but I wanted more. I was craving more, because what was here, I was like, man, I love this. I am digging it. But then it's all done so quickly, and sometimes it is a little overwhelming. It's a little confusing. You gotta kind of think for a minute. And I think a big problem too, because it's so short, you don't really have time to latch onto the characters. Not only your main character, Antigone, you don't have a hell of a lot of time to spend with her and kind of getting into her mind space, you know. Your time with her is very short. And then, more importantly, secondary characters. You guys, this book suffers from the secondary characters kind of being almost thrown under the bus, practically. It's like you don't have enough time to build up any sort of sympathy or understanding of these characters, whether they are heroes or villains, you know? So yeah, that's kind of my big thing with this novella. It just needed more, because what's there is rather rich and dense, and a full-blown book would have had the time to elaborate and to breathe and to really allow you to connect and sympathize with these characters, to understand your heroes, to understand your villains. Yeah, I just needed more. Yeah, guys, I needed so much more, and I'm so upset and frustrated that this book didn't entirely give me what I was hoping. So my basic understanding of what was going on in this book, we do take place in a futuristic, post-apocalyptic world on Earth. We get the feeling that something has happened. What exactly created this post-apocalyptic world? There's kind of numerous mentions, like, was it some sort of virus? Was it like nuclear war? And Veronica Roth is definitely, even though this is taking place in the far future, Veronica Roth is definitely kind of creating this commentary on modern day politics, if you will, because this book is definitely very heavily political, and it's getting into a lot of really good political things and how characters feel about certain things, you know, the people who support the system, the people who do not support the system, and, you know, kind of the brewing of rebellion in the background, you know. As a result of maybe this virus, nuclear war sort of thing, I don't know. Once again, I was a little kind of confused about exactly what the situation was, but maybe we're supposed to kind of be a little tad bit confused, because I think the characters don't entirely understand, you know. I think stuff has kind of been hidden from them too. But yeah, as a result of things that have happened in the past, humanity has severely dwindled, and what's left of humanity is kind of in this little small area that has been preserved, where the earth and the land is fresh and breathable. Since humanity has severely dwindled, it's very vital that women produce children. So that brings in another modern contemporary issue, you know, kind of this debate of pro-life and abortion and all that, you know, people who want children, people who don't want children, you know. So that is a really heavy subject kind of being dealt with in here as well, since women are kind of being forced to have children, since humanity is severely lacking at the moment. And another thing, as a result of kind of everything that's going on, the science going on in this book, people, like, when people die, their DNA is kind of taken from them. A sampling of their DNA is taken from them, and that DNA is used to create children, in a sense, so that way it can be implanted into women. and it's a weird thing. It's kind of a weird thing. It's hard to kind of get into it, because I was having a very difficult a very difficult time understanding kind of how the DNA was being used and stored. That's because they're stored in like big huge vaults. Like when you die, you know, here's your little section of a grave and whatnot, and your DNA is stored in there, and it's almost kind of this form of immortality almost, and kind of this sort of thing. You can kind of be cloned. I don't know. I was kind of, once again, I was getting a little overwhelmed and confused about that. And once again, that's a product of this book being so short that the science was rather complicated, and I was having a hard time grasping onto that. And had this book been larger, I feel like I could have understood that more, and then Veronica Roth could have expanded on that, like what exactly she was kind of getting into with the DNA. You know, was it cloning exactly? I'm not quite sure. And yeah, our main character of Antigone, she's a young woman, her mother and father being Oedipus and Jocasta, you know, kind of our central characters from the story Oedipus Rex. And yeah, if you know Oedipus Rex, that was a story about a man who, when he was a child, he was sent out to die as a baby, but someone collected him and adopted him, and then yeah, he went off and he unknowingly ended up killing his own father, not knowing that was his father, and he also unknowingly ended up marrying his mother and producing children with his mother. So I like how Veronica Roth kind of took that with Oedipus and Jocasta, and how like Antigone and her siblings were kind of created within that, because it's not quite incest. In this book, it's not quite incest, I don't think, was my understanding, compared to how it was in Oedipus Rex. Yeah, guys. So I liked kind of that whole thing, and once again, how Veronica Roth used Oedipus and Jocasta and kind of given a little bit of that backstory. Once again, I would have loved more history, because I think even the backstory and the history before Antigone's character, I think a lot of that is really rich in detail that I wanted more of. So yeah, you have Antigone, who's a young woman. She has her siblings, she has a sister, and she has 2 brothers, and the thing is, her brothers are on like opposing sides, and then you have her uncle Creon, who is really militaristic, and yeah, he's definitely the villain. He's kind of the ruler of kind of this chunk of Earth, the last of humanity, and yeah, one of her brothers is siding with her uncle, and then one of her other brothers is not siding with the uncle. So yeah, that's where a lot of the drama starts playing into this, and where Antigone's story goes from there, and how she starts kind of being part of the cause for rebellion, and how that kind of leads to where her story goes, you know. It's a lot. It gets really dramatic and deep. So once again, what I'm trying to get at with this book, I wanted more. I needed a lot more depth in history. I would have loved to have seen a lot more with just Antigone as a character, her relationship with her siblings, definitely more with her relationship with Creon, which is quite vital. And then yeah, I mean, even Creon himself, what was here of Creon? I really liked him as a villain, but yeah, I would have loved to have seen more with like his relationship with his wife. What was his relationship with Oedipus and Jocasta in the past exactly? You know, why did he feel about them the way that he was feeling, you know? So yeah, there was so much potential, but as I said, so much wasted potential at the end of the day, which is rather unfortunate, because I think this had the potential to be really, really great. But yeah, it needed to be way longer. So who would I recommend this book for exactly? I'm not going to tell you not to read this book, because on Goodreads, there's definitely people who really enjoyed this. So kind of just base it off of kind of how I was just telling you. Do you think this would have been better as a book rather than a novella? You know, do you think the short story format is going to be frustrating to you or not? You know, what do you value? Do you value a lot more character, a lot more plot, you know, rather than something that's just rather skimmed over? But yeah, if you really like Greek mythology retellings, I think this is definitely a must for creativity alone. So you guys, that is it for my book review on Arch-Conspirator by Veronica Roth. In the comments below, have you guys read this book? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you plan on reading it sometime in the future? Just let me know. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.